Okay, so I think we should go ahead and get started. We do have a lot of folks that are dialing in now, and I know our moderator is working to get in, so that's great. And so with that, Diane, if we can kick it off with you, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Absolutely. Here, give Samantha my phone. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the launch of C-Suite New York. Can you mute that, Sammy, because it's got feedback, or disconnect? Thank you. Well, let's try again. Welcome to the launch of C-Suite New York. We are so excited to be here. This was supposed to be a live launch in May, hosted by Patricia Hinnerman, who's on the call right now from IPG. So a deferred thank you to IPG. It's because of you that we are even able to have started this path towards New York. C-Suite, let me just give you an overview of what we do and why we are. C-Suite is for executive women. We are the true C-Suite, CEO, CFO, COOs, presidents, vice presidents, directors, founders. We combine that with a group that I ran for a while called Women Who Write Checks. Those are institutional checks, so women who are in private equity, institutional finance, et cetera, with the thought that if we take our executive women, everybody always needs funding, and we have the funding piece, then we are an economic power to be reckoned with. And that is really why we started C-Suite. If we can, as women, really make a concerted effort to work with each other, whatever that means, then we pull each other up and everybody does better. So that is C-Suite. So as an introduction, my name is Diane Gubin. I am the co-founder of C-Suite with Beth Hilbing. Professionally, in addition to C-Suite, I am also an investment banker. I'm also a principal in a number of companies, including an executive search firm, which you may see on my emails. That's Amplified Professional Services. I'm also part of a number of my investment banking clients. And with that, I am just so happy and delighted again that you are here. Thank you for joining us. We are really looking forward to building out C-Suite in New York and nationally. And we just thank you so much for being part of this wonderful journey that we're taking together. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Diane, so much. And I'm Beth Hilbing, and I'm also co-founder with C-Suite. I was very blessed. Diane had a vision for C-Suite 3 years ago, and she asked me to come on board to help organize and put forward her vision and join our committees, and we've done a fantastic job. I'm also a senior manager, IT business partner for Boeing, supporting the El Segundo classified areas. We want to thank you for attending today and for your support of C-Suite and our events. This is a very exciting day for us, as this is a soft launch for our New York committee and our New York membership. We had hoped to be there in person with a big event at IPG, but given COVID, obviously that did not happen. And I know everyone's struggling with a lot of different issues across the nation today as we speak, and we give everybody our blessing, and we hope that we have a good path forward. We hope that you enjoy the program. As I said, C-Suite started 3 years ago. It was a small committee of 6 and a membership of around 50. We now are nationwide, and we have a committee of 19 and a membership of 1,000 plus. And we just love our members in our committee. We are committed to our members, and in July, we are re-hosting our website. We're launching a new website on a new platform. We're introducing new membership benefits, sponsorship opportunities, continued marketing and social expansion, CEO peer groups, webinars, and other benefits. And so stay tuned for that. We'll be doing a launch for that in early July. And we want to make sure that we're providing a mechanism for all of us to stay connected, committed to each other, and supporting each other as we move forward in this environment. The one thing that has been great for us with C-Suite over the last couple of years is really all the success stories that have come from this. And I have heard over and over again how, and we see it through the network, how the women are helping each other, whether it's key position placement, career coaching, having availability to legal assistance, financial assistance, investment opportunities, and others to really help their overall career and personal objectives. So please take time to go out to LinkedIn, join us via LinkedIn, via our website, And we are on all the social media. And Jenny, who is our marketing director, does a fantastic job keeping us updated. And so enjoy the discussion today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Diane to announce our New York committee. And thank you for joining again.
Thank you, Beth. Yes, we are so excited to introduce our New York Executive Committee, and they include Patricia Hinnerman from IPG. And Patricia, if you could just, 30 seconds, tell us, who you are and what you do.
Sure, had to navigate the mute button. So I'm Patricia Heinerman from Interpublic Group. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer there. I'm so excited to be here, be a part of this community with a charter that's so important. I'm really excited about the New York kickoff, and the panel today is really impressive. I'm at my standing desk, I'm focused, and I'm ready to dig in today.
Terrific, thank you. Deanna?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Rockefeller, and like Patricia said, so excited to be part of the C-Suite Executive Committee here in New York City. I work at Lockheed Martin, and I lead the International Science and Technology engagements in the Office of the CTO, where I literally am doing the job of my dreams. I get to work with country, industry, and academic leaders to develop programs all over the world. I've been able to stand up an R&D center, which creates new technologies in Australia, a girls' STEM camp in Israel, an entrepreneurship program in India, and I just launched 2 seed funds in Germany and Israel. And I would say I have my impetus for work and kind of this, what we do this in this world is I have a real passion for connecting the broader community so we can come together to create a unique and meaningful impact. And that's one of the reasons I joined C-Suite. So we're so happy to have all of you with us today and look forward to a truly engaging discussion.
Thank you so much. Jonna, are you on the phone? Yes.
I am indeed. Hello, everybody. I'm Jonna Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of a 17-year-old startup, Nemertes Research. We do research advisory services in the area of enterprise information technology. I was previously a chief technology officer, and I created the company for which I saw a need in the market that I would have liked to have had as a supplier back back 17 years ago. I'm happy that some of the folks on this call are folks that I work with professionally, and it's really wonderful to have that professional relationship be enhanced by the networking relationship that we have, and sort of the whole focus on women across a broad spectrum of roles and with different visions, but all sharing the vision in common of working together. So very happy to be here.
Thank you, Jonna. And Nadia?
Thank you, Diane. So I'm Nadia Tian. I'm a founding partner of a private equity firm. So my day job is to focus on medtech and consumer health investment. We do have a very strong focus in terms of cross-border. So we work with entrepreneurs here in the US and Europe and Israel. And we also work with family offices in both the US and Asia to help commercialize the good technologies here, especially in healthcare, to be global. So we also, at the same time, we also have a very strong focus in terms of impact investing. And over the past few years, we've seen tremendous growth in female founders and women-led business. So it's a privilege, it's really an honor for me to work with many of them. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very excited to join this community, C-Suite, especially the New York chapter, because it's just such a empowering, a great community for women helping women, and also to help our peers to become more successful in both professional and personal development. So I know we have a great panel today, and hope everyone on the call today will enjoy this event, and looking forward to getting to know each one of you.
Terrific, thank you, Nadia. Is Sandy Pelland on? She was having some trouble logging on. Sandy? Okay, we'll come back to you, Sandy, then. I would like to actually introduce our new membership manager, Samantha Greenberg. Just wave at everybody so everyone knows who you are as we move forward and we put our membership programs together. You'll have a face there. And now I would actually like to introduce our sponsor from Swim USA, who has been so generous I understand we're all getting a gorgeous swimsuit. So our sponsor is Suzanne Walker. She's the Vice President of Corporate Sales from Swim USA. So tell us about Swim USA, please.
Sure. Thank you. First off, for having me here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here and representing another woman in business. Swim USA is one of the largest swimwear manufacturers in the United States, with dozens of brands in all levels of business, from our proprietary labels, Miracle Suit, like I'm sure most of you have heard of, all the way to private label businesses that we do with department stores and even the big box chains. We also do licensed brands as well. So we've kind of like run the gamut of the whole swimwear industry, mostly women's, but we also do children's and men's and others as well. That's why we're called Swim USA, because it's a little bit of everything. The company was started in the 1930s, and it's a private family-owned company in its 4th generation, and still strong and successful, which I as far as you guys might know, is something to be proud of. And what I do there is I run a few of the divisions. I oversee probably about 21 different brands in terms of the product development and sales, profitability, you name it. I'm responsible for it. So it's exciting. It's great. It's a great opportunity for me to use, the analytical side of my brain and the creative part of me as well, which is really kind of stimulating at all levels all the time. So it's great.
Okay, great. So we think that Sandy is on. Sandy, are you there?
I am. I had technical issues and I'm on Zoom every day. When I figure, I just spent the last half hour trying to get on. So hello, everybody. I apologize for being
someone needs to come
not early here on this.
So that's okay. It's very stressful. So just so you know, Sandy Pelland, she's the CEO and founder of MomLifeTV. And then she's also sits on the New York committee with us for C-Suite. And so she will be the moderator today, and she'll introduce the panel and then also work through the various questions. If you have questions, please feel free to use the chat session, and we'll get to those as we go as well. Okay, thank you, Sandy.
That's terrific. Beth, I'd actually like to give Sandy's a quick bio here.
Okay.
So Sandy Pelland is the CEO and founder of MomLifeTV, a Webby Award nominated digital media site. With a primary focus on video, MomLifeTV presents informative lifestyle entertainment to support a new generation of women on their amazing journey through motherhood. Previously an award-winning creative director in advertising and media, Sandy's worked on global brands at such agencies as Gray Mediacom, Saatchi & Saatchi, and Bozell Global Healthcare, overseeing creative and brand expression across everything. Sandy is a member of the Producers Guild of America and an associate member of the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences. Thank you, Sandy. Take us away.
Great, thank you. Now, Suzanne, were you introduced formally? Since I missed that?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I gave my quick little bio and still thrilled to be here.
Excellent. So I'm going to continue, and I'd love to introduce Alexandra Suzanne Greenawalt. She is a best-selling author and personal stylist. Alexandra has worked with numerous celebrities. Her photo shoot styling work has been published in Japanese Vogue, the New York Times, InStyle magazine, Marie Claire magazine, and many more. Her current specialty is helping women through personalized one-on-one style makeovers for the digital world. With all the current changes that we have now, how we appear on screen has become more important to convey the right message. Alexandra's unique approach is to nurture each individual style, working holistically to craft the right personal style message. Welcome, Alexandra. And then next, I'd love to introduce for our panel, we have Sara Kozlowski, and she is from the CFDA, the Council of Fashion Designers of America. And her job there is she's the Director of Education and Sustainable Strategies. So from scholarship to sustainability, Sara oversees the CFDA program portfolio designed to impact mentorship, education, sustainable business development, and awards for creatively diverse talent ranging from students to professionals. Her 27 years of experience in fashion as a designer, turned to educator, and sustainability strategist are applied to CFDA programs where she develops content centered on creativity and sustainable innovation. within sustainability. She is a highly sought speaker and panelist, and we're very thrilled to have her today. And then next is, we have Jayson Kim, and he's the GP of Legendary Ventures. He is a veteran in the retail industry, having held senior executive leadership roles at several Fortune 500 companies, including J. Crew Group, Jones 9 West Group, Perry Ellis International, BCBG, Max AZRIA, and the Nokia Corporation. He's currently a general partner at Legendary Ventures, and he's also a board trustee for the Girl Scouts of America. Welcome, everyone. And what I would like to do today is start with some questions for the whole panel, and I will call on everybody individually, and I'd love to just hear everything that, that you have to say about the fashion industry. Can everybody individually give us an overview of just your company and your size? Like, for example, the number of employees or your sales volume, and the kind of work that you personally do. Suzanne, I don't know if you covered that, but maybe you can pick that up.
A little bit I did. Swim USA, as I said, is one of the largest swimwear manufacturers. We manufacture swimsuits across the world, actually, in 14 different countries. We do business all the from you know, the highest level exclusive department store down to the true big box and marts of the world. Because at every level we have, there's a very meaningful way to do business, and we are very fortunate to have carved out a nice piece of that across all levels of business and around the world, as a matter of fact.
Perfect, perfect. Sara, can you tell us a little bit about the CFDA and what you guys do, and your sales, and basically the work that you personally do there?
Absolutely. And first, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you and fellow panelists today. The CFDA is a not-for-profit organization, and we're actually independently led. We were founded in 1962 and currently have about 470 members, which is everyone from our chairman, Mr. Tom Ford, to some of the legacy designers in fashion, such as Ralph Lauren, Donna Karan, and cutting-edge designers such as Virgil Abloh and Kirby Jean Raymond from Hire Moss. Our CEO, Stephen Kolb, is a really wonderful visionary. So I'm quite lucky in my work to really, as said in my bio, work with everyone from students to CFDA members to emerging talent. A lot of our program combines mentorship with micro grants or awards. Last year we awarded about $700,000 in micro grants, and a lot of that is there to actualize goals that are being formulated when working with mentors. So it's just really a dynamic community when you combine the membership, which is American fashion, with at the education level about 22 schools.
Excellent, thank you so much. Jayson, can you tell us a little bit about Legendary Ventures and what you do there?
Yes. Sure. First, I just wanted to thank Nadia for inviting me to the panel. I think I'm the only boy on this panel, so I feel really honored. And I'm also in commute, so unfortunately I have to dial in by audio, so hopefully everybody can hear me well. But about me, in my personal life, I'm a single family office. As I transitioned my career in retail from private equity, I was a TPG partner with some of those brands that you had mentioned, and transitioned into ventures. I both have a family side as well as kind of my day job as a general partner for a venture firm. On the single family side, it's mostly, private alternative investments. And similarly, Legendary Ventures is a venture firm, early stage venture firm that I co-founded with three of my partners. The other partner is Jamie Driver, who is the founder of Morpheus Media, which is a fairly large retail media business in New York. And our senior statesman in the group is Ken Anderson, who was the founder of Macy's.com and its CEO for about 30 years. We all had retiring events early in the decade, and so we started working together as friends and colleagues to really get involved in the venture space. And that co-investing practice became the foundation of the firm today. So today, we have about 7 partners. We're not that big, but I think we do a good job at it. We're geographically segmented, on both coasts. So I kind of lead the New York practice. Kent takes the Valley for us in San Francisco, and we've got a younger team in Los Angeles that predominantly focuses on early stage companies. We have venture funds in banks of $100 million. Our current active fund started last year, and I'm happy to report that we have a tremendous number of women participating in our portfolio. So we have two sides of our fund. We have an acceleration program which takes very early stage companies and gives them some, not only financial contributions, but strategic contributions so that we can get them into the portfolio, and that we have our portfolio business. And it's kind of interesting, the vast majority, it's about an even split between boys and girls in the, in terms of founder operators. But what's really interesting is that something that I haven't seen in recent years, but, or way back when, but more in recent years, is the vast majority of our revenue generating companies are female led. So I think that's a really great sign. So I'll just stop there.
It definitely is. And I'm sure you're going to give us some great insights from your perspective in the industry. And Alexandra, can you tell us a little bit about what you do with styling and about your book?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I first want to thank Deanna Rockefeller, who nominated me for this panel. It's great to be here. When a woman opens her closet and says she has nothing to wear, what she's really saying is that she has nothing to wear that represents or expresses who she wants to be today. And so my life's work the last 19 years has been helping women with that closet conundrum, helping them, through style makeovers, head to toe. And I bring in vendors like hairstylists, makeup artists, photographers, opticians, bra fitters, just all the specialists to create a new brand and a new look so that she can show the world who she really is and express what she wants to express. So I only work with a handful of clients one-to-one a year, and I'm a boutique business.
Perfect. And everybody wishes they had a personal stylist. So
yes, yes.
Absolutely. So I want to continue then with just where everybody sees the fashion industry going forward from a business perspective for the remainder of 2020 and going forward into this new environment. And Suzanne, maybe we can start with you on that question.
Sure. Well, after the initial triage of the first couple of months when no one really knew what was happening and the stores were all closed and it was almost next to impossible to get anything that was non-essential, we thought there would be tremendous pent-up demand. And we saw a great spike in retail sales. But the exciting part about that is it wasn't just a spike. It is continuing to grow each week. Because of course, in our business, we're looking at sales on a weekly basis down to the style level and even down to the size level in some instances. And we had really initially thought and planned for a spike and then a downturn once that pent-up demand was all used up. Yeah. What we were excited to see, as I said, is a continued growth week after week over the past maybe 5 weeks, which has been really exciting because it tells us that it wasn't short-lived, that people are still interested in supplementing their wardrobe. We are finding, however, that most of the business, or a lot of the recent business, the big uptick is in, for lack of a better term, younger product. We're finding that parents are buying for their children maybe instead of themselves, so they might be conservative in that aspect. We're also finding that specifically in swimwear, the younger product, so we might call the junior product, was selling more quickly because our feeling is that she doesn't have the stress or pressure of funding a household maybe, and she's not being conservative and holding back. So she ran out there. She was tired of being in the house and bought herself a couple of bikinis, and she's hitting the beach. Whereas the moms in the group, or maybe even the grandmas in the group, were being a little bit more conservative with their spending, waiting to see what happens in 6 months, like, is everything going to be okay? So it's interesting in that we're finding that business is stronger than we thought coming out of it, which is great. And that I'm talking about retail sales.
Yeah, retail sales, sure. Perfect. And Sara, coming from the CFDA, what do you see about fashion going forward, and in terms of what the designers are doing?
Well, adding to what has just been shared, we all agree it's been an unprecedented year of change and challenge. But I think even in the last few weeks, we're seeing this opportunity for transformative change that has an ultimate positive impact. And so I like to think of creative Darwinism in fashion right now. Yes, we're seeing, unfortunately, some downsizing, but we're also seeing right sizing. And from a creative standpoint, choosing to do fewer collections, fewer deliveries in terms of sustainable systems is actually a good thing, but it's also great in terms of like recalibrating the brand identity, the product offering, if it's product, to the customer. So I think that in the long view, we're headed to a fashion future that is much more embedding sustainability into the entire business model, not just into one core area of the brand, really thinking about the people piece and social impact in the work, which is really positive. And then lastly, just really in some cases seeing remarkable pivots across categories, designers who are apparel going into home or, including more accessories and really thinking about the brand experience and brand service. And lastly, this fall, this fall, it is looking positive that New York Fashion Week will exist, and it'll be really the first to be digital. So this is a platform from a sustainability lens that's actually extremely positive, and it'll be the beginning, hopefully, of a new chapter.
Oh, fantastic. And we're going to get into sustainability after I talk to the next two panelists in greater depth, because that is a really hot topic going forward, especially with Gen Z, their influence. So Jayson, can you tell me a little bit about where you see fashion going forward? In terms
Sure.
of
I kind of agree with Sara in kind of her perspective on it. I guess in the 20 years that I've been in this industry, I've never really seen an easy period of retail comps. So COVID or no COVID, I just feel like there's been a transformation that continues to kind of happen, over decades. And so the big question for us, more from a retail perspective, is what is the experience going to look like? And specifically with recent events like COVID, how will that accelerate or decelerate, consumer shopping behaviors, whether that's going to be at the point of sale or it's going to be online. And at the product level, what types of, I'm not quite sure if it's fabrication or materials, but what type of products will be very innovative, kind of tying into this theme of sustainability in the future. So, overall, I think retail is going to obviously continue to grow. I mean, can't imagine a day when we don't have retail. But the question for us as a venture firm is, what's it going to look like in a few years? Where are you going to see the channel shifts? For example, I saw a report recently that stated that coming out of COVID, last year was flat comps year over year. This year, we don't know what we're going to see. And if you look at what happened during the pandemic, everybody said, well, you have so many new users going online, right? And a lot of our companies had started planning for that additional demand, right? Because a lot of our companies are digitally native businesses. But we recently sent out a guidance telling them not to do that, because we believe that the majority of new shoppers online were simply part of a segment, right, that was just uncomfortable with going online. And now that they're a little comfortable, who knows what's going to happen to it. But I saw a report recently said that the true up number on that was about 7.8 million customers. So, or new cross-channel customers. So I don't think the numbers are as big as people think they are, right? Because I've run into a lot of executives and companies and founders that think because of this major shift into online, if they've got heavy online businesses, that they're going to do extraordinarily well. And I'm not sure if that's the case. I think, of that 7.8 million, you might see 10% of that stick over the next 3 years. So I think, to everyone else's point on this call, I think it will come back into the physical environment. So then the question is what is that going to look like, and how do you account for a higher expectation in consumer engagement? And at the product level, we've definitely been seeing a lot of, new innovative products that aren't just form, but it's also form and function.
That's right.
So we've seen everything. This is across all categories in apparel and accessories. This is from children's wear all the way to, potentially runway business. We have I recently met with a company that was creating hoodies and jackets for children that would transform into teddy bears. So I think people are getting extraordinarily innovative with trying to figure out how to add more technology, and not necessarily, you know, tech or computerization, but maybe function. And I think there's much more of a focus on that now to give people a bigger value proposition at the point of sale.
Yeah, which really leads us right into, again, with the sustainability. But before we go in there, I just wanted to get Alexandra a little bit of your take just in terms of being a stylist, what you think is going to happen business-wise.
Actually, what I've been seeing is extremely exciting from my perspective, because the way I used to work with a client was very much meshed with going into a department store, going in physically to her closet, most meetings in person, and then there would always be like a Pinterest board. There'd be some online work. There was always a mix of online and offline, the way we worked together. But now, about 6 weeks ago, I started working with a new client, and we did everything by Zoom. We did the whole makeover by Zoom. She got the same results. She had the photo shoot. You know, she had that new hair, the new makeup. She learned all these new tips and tricks. We did all of her shopping to get her ready for her YouTube launch. So the emphasis was on waist up dressing, was on Zoom calls, was on this new way of living. And the fact that she didn't have a problem with us, you know, using all this technology, shopping online. And 5, 7, 8 years ago, it was a struggle for me to get my clients to use these online tools we have. So I definitely saw like the shutting of a lot of people's wallets at the beginning of COVID. But now what I'm seeing is people are now dealing with, well, how do I adapt to this new normal? How do I adapt to, I'm gonna be on Zoom, I'm gonna be waist up. And part of that is lighting, backdrop, the whole picture. And, you know, that was the focus of her makeover. So I think it's exciting because we're using all these tools. Retail is drastically changing. I went into Nordstrom last week and it was shocking how little product there was in the store. There used to be a time when the stores always had more than what was online. And now we're in that flip side. And so I think from my perspective, I don't feel like I'm out of a job, because it's more like I have to help the client translate and adapt to this new world.
Perfect, yeah. And then let's go right into the sustainability and what that looks like going forward. So Gen Z is really this big influence. I think they were more than the millennials, just into sustainability, recycling. And now there's fabrics being made out of recycled plastics. And you know, we want to talk about carbon offset and reducing negative footprints, and even as far as packaging. And let's start with you, Sara, since this is your...
Sure. I mean, I get so excited when I look at the energy and potential of Gen Z. I mean, at the consumer brand level, they are making the demands that need to be made. And they have to, and that's not just in terms of buying power. That's everything from, you know, climate activism to BLM to, you know, previously Me Too. I mean, that's generations, you know, inertia. So I think when it, you know, applies to a demand for brand transparency, not to just say that you're sustainable, but to really be authentic and to demonstrate what exact strategies are happening. But you know, from a creative standpoint, it's rather exciting because it's, I think, the generation that really embraces re-commerce, whether that's, rental systems, elevated thrift, or, wonderful examples such as the Real Real. But then on the other end of the paradigm, tied into innovation, we're seeing more, on-demand subscription type of brands. 4 Days, which is a CFDA member, Christy Kaler, is a great example of business model innovation, or Bosley Rossborough, who makes on-demand menswear using dead stock, materials and Clo3D so that it's truly inventory-free fashion. So I think that what's most exciting is there's such a range of strategies that's really not like a one-size approach. And then, as you said with the materials, the fact that the innovation, the intersections of technology, biology. You know, we're seeing new fibers, new materials like grown from food waste, which is so exciting, and to be scalable in a safe way, compostable fashion. I mean, that get better than that. But then also waste as food, the true circular economy, cradle to cradle mindset, with EcoNil probably being one of the most you know, well-known examples of that in terms of closed loop materials. Take it from motion plastics. So I think overall, I'm just, all my hopes are in Gen Z.
Oh, great. And Suzanne, what's your feelings about the sustainability, especially when it comes to swimwear?
Sure. Well, we've been using recycled fibers for a few years now, and it's really exciting that it's become worthwhile to talk about, because initially it didn't seem that the market was, there weren't open arms, because there was initially a few years ago, there was a premium to be paid for that fiber. Now it is becoming much more commonplace. We have a number of lines done exclusively with recycled fibers. And the exciting part is the more product we put out there, the more they want. So we do that, and it's obviously much easier with man-made fibers or man-made fabrics, because it is the swim garments are 95% man-made fibers. But even then, initially when it started, we could only get liner fabrics that were recycled fibers. So it took a few years for all the components to then eventually become available with recycled fibers. But to Sarah's point before, it's not just about the product, it's about the company behind it as well. So it's important that we relay that to the consumer, and we let her know that we're also have, you know, we have a sustainability committee, and we have, not that we're putting this on our hang tags, but, you know, we've no more plastic cups allowed in the office. Everything must be recycled, and we're going to a zero waste. We receive zero waste in the future, in the near future. So it's a fascinating part of the business. But I was just on a Zoom meeting yesterday presenting product for 2021, and we did our whole presentation. And at the end, the vice president of the very well-known department store said, "Wow, this is so compelling. The product looks great, but more important, it's recycled."
Yes.
So that was really, you know, telling to me as well, that it is not, it's not going to be short-lived.
Yeah, consumers care now. It's
absolutely.
And Jayson, as far as you know, investments go, is that big now? Looking for sustainability in companies?
I think it's getting hotter. We haven't seen as many companies innovating in this area. But I think it's definitely, with COVID, we've seen an uptick. Most recently, we saw a company primarily around, like, you know, logistics. So we've been seeing a lot of packaging, interesting new forms of intelligent packaging, where you could recycle the packaging, and also has some level of technology that could give you information about the stability of the packaging, which has lots of great applications from a security, fraud prevention standpoint. I guess the big thing on my mind is when you guys mentioned sustainability, is scalability. So, you know, I think it's great that we're heading down that path, and it's going to be interesting to see in the next 10 years, because I think this area is definitely a developmental type industry, is to see which types of products and new technologies, specifically around, you know, fashion, will standardize itself in the market, because of the scalability from a unit economics perspective. I mean, for instance, with this packaging and recycling company, it's great, right? But I mean, each one of their units cost, you know, anywhere from $40 to $50, and that's pretty tough for most retailers. So the question is, but on the other hand, if they start using it and they can cut down costs in other areas, and it's good for the environment, and certainly there's multi-use capabilities on this type of packaging, then you could see an effective ROI at some point. But the question really is how many retailers are really going to be open and accepting, and, you know, who's going to be the kind of first movers behind this. But, you know, we think it's like everything in life, it's probably going to happen in the next 10 years. The question is who, when, and how. And I feel that fashion, of all the CPG categories, will probably be the pioneer in this area, because this sector specifically has the most volume, right? I mean, when I was at J. Crew, it was interesting. Back 20 years ago, we actually had companies like Microsoft and Adobe show up to figure out why we were generating so much volume online. And it was pretty simple, right? I mean, we sell the most amount of units. It's the easiest thing to sell from a direct-to-consumer perspective. So obviously, this industry is probably going to be the mover and shaker in this area.
I think so. And Alexandra, as far as the consumer demand and the, you know, the people that you are working with, do they care about sustainability? Are they looking for that when they, you know, pick a clothing company?
You know, it's interesting. Years ago, I always thought that shopping vintage would be a very important part of my work. And it's something that no one ever wanted, no one ever asked for. Same thing with sustainability. People don't ask for it. However, I will say that if the client is presented with something that is sustainable and knows a little bit more, that they become more interested. It's usually not something they would seek out, because most of them are building, you know, wardrobes from a sustainable perspective. They want to build a wardrobe that they're going to wear everything to death.
That's right.
So a lot of it is the opposite of fast fashion. I don't preach fast fashion at all. I'm sort of very anti-fast fashion. So the whole purpose of our work together is that everything that they buy, they're going to wear over and over, and it's going to be a home run. But a lot of times they're not asking for sustainability, but it's like, if it is, it's like, oh, well, that's nice too. But it's more like, oh, but this looks really good on me.
Right. Okay. And while we're on this topic, now this could be a whole other conference in itself, but so I just want to touch briefly on this, and I think maybe a shorter answer, because like I said, it's a hot topic. What about the move towards US manufacturing versus our dependence on China? How do you think the industry is going to go on that? I'll just touch with you while you're here, Alexandra, and then we'll go to the other.
I mean, there's no one more champion for local designer. Anytime I can introduce a client to a New York-based designer working out of Brooklyn versus taking her to Macy's, I am so happy. That being said, a lot of times price is very, very important to the consumer. So a sort of Nordstrom level retailer is sort of the price point that my ladies like to work at. Yeah. But yeah, I really hope that we bring some more innovation back to the States, because we used to be filled, the garment district used to be filled with talented artisans. I mean, I used to go to a jeweler, you know, walk up to the second floor and pull jewelry from her, and then, you know, go to Brooklyn and pull from a designer there.
Right.
A lot of those people have been priced out of Manhattan, priced out of Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
It's like, I know the American consumer, we want a cheap price, but then how many people really want to only buy China? We're in this rock and a hard place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to jump to Suzanne, because you know, your swimwear, where do you produce that? Is that here in China? Is that here in the US?
All over the world, yes. There's a little bit in China, but we're not reliant on China. We actually do some manufacturing in the United States. It is absolutely the much higher price point items than the most of the country is willing to accept. Yeah. However, we also are doing a lot of development. You know, we keep our seamstresses and sample making and our design and development team all locally and domestically. But we still do have manufacturing in the United States, and we will continue to do so, because we also are finding more of the specialization that's being asked of us for the customers, the personalization. People don't want something that 3,000 other people have. They want something a little bit more precious in their own. But that kind of manufacturing is very difficult to maintain to scale. So you're talking about, and that's really where we will pursue to stay locally. But it will, unfortunately, based on costing, on what the sheer price of the components. And that was one of the other things, is the components aren't in the United States anymore. We don't have fabric knitters in the States, or dyers and printers of fabric. And where do you get your underwires from and your liners and elastics? That's tough to come by.
Yeah, and the labor is so much cheaper when you go abroad. It's very hard to compete.
It is.
People don't want to work in factories here. And Sara, in terms of the designers and what they're doing.
Well, very good point that the ecosystem, I mean, there can be an aim to relocalize manufacturing, but the, materials and, all components are still it's still globalized. So I think it's quite exciting to see microclusters like Detroit starting to establish for manufacturing. Actually, our vice chairwoman, Tracy Reese, sits on a board, Isaac, in Detroit. And I know some larger scale brands are beginning to look at, provisioning portions of their manufacturing there. And, we talked a bit earlier about Clo and, technology. And I think that's super exciting because that really is a whole new supply chain model, imagining that, you can really self-design, a dress and then have it made really super locally and like microclusters. So I think that there's a lot of room for innovation, but outside of New York City, again, Detroit, as well as LA being high potential areas for growth for manufacturing.
Yeah, perfect. And Jayson, what are you seeing as far as manufacturing here versus China?
I echo some of the earlier statements. I think there's definitely, a much more, I don't know if it's a focus on the domestic environment with contract manufacturing, but I do definitely see this kind of rise in manufacturing, kind of this resurgence in the domestic environment. But what's interesting to note is in China and abroad, a lot of the big traditional factories, because of some of these issues they're having, right, with the unit economics and the situation with the state of retail, a lot of them are just moving into now license or purchase brands. So I think that's kind of interesting. So similar to what the real estate landowners are doing to try to preserve their industry, you see a lot of companies like Li and Feng and some of these big traditional manufacturers in Asia no longer looking to do POs or business or contract work for even larger firms. They simply, because of the instability of the market, a lot of them look immediately towards like a licensing agreement so they could just kind of do the whole thing. So I think that's kind of interesting where that's going to shape up in the next couple of years. How will, some of these mid-market businesses that don't have a lot of volume, but they're very margin-driven businesses, how will that, manufacturing environment kind of play out for them over the next couple of years? So. Yeah,
perfect. And in terms of consumer spending, as panelists, what do you think that the consumer will be spending in terms of frivolous versus essential? Like, for instance, Chanel, one of the biggest designers, actually raised prices during COVID. So Suzanne, what is your sense of that consumer spending?
Well, I think I touched on it a little bit before, at least my direct experience, in that we're finding that heads of household are going to be a little bit more conservative. We feel like, people with that, the extra income, or maybe who have not been affected by any kind of downturn in their employment or their income, they're still spending, loving fashion, loving newness, and embracing that. But I think we're finding though that the more, like I said, the head of household would be slightly more conservative, just not being sure what the next 6 months or 12 months will bring.
Especially with the high unemployment right now and people not knowing which industries are going to recover and which aren't.
And we're finding that they're not spending on themselves, they're spending on their children, they're spending on their home. Like the home area is really in a big, it's having a wonderful season right now because everyone's at home and looking around at the four walls and said, oh, I could use some curtains in here or maybe a throw pillow or two. So that business has been very strong. And that we see that continuing through the season.
Yeah. And Sara, what's your sense on frivolous versus essential?
I think to amplify kind of what was just highlighted, because it's never one answer, a one size fits all in creativity, certainly not in fashion, but I really do love this idea of this home / yourself, the convergence of, you and your environment, especially with working from home. So whether that's like how you accessorize yourself and then how you accessorize your space that is going to be visible when you're Zooming or any other, type of virtual meeting. But I do think that also comfort could never be more of a reality, clothing for home that, is like the next generation of athleisure. On the other hand, I also already see a return to like dressing and really the art of that, particularly also living out of real life and meeting virtually. There are some that really rise to that challenge of wanting to be more styled, more, expressive, and, it's just really exciting.
Yeah. And so Alexandra, in terms of people now wanting to have that personal brand, do you see that really increasing from past years?
Yeah,
and
I
moving
do
forward?
see that increasing. I also see something that I've never seen before, and that is that, things like webcams are being upgraded, things like lighting, things like backdrops, environment, like combining environment with the outfit, with the hair, with the makeup. Again, like the Zoom dressing, which is like waist up. In terms of essential versus non-essential, I think this whole experience the last couple of months has made us all pause and think about, what is really important and what is essential and what isn't. And those who are wanting to move forward with their online presence in a very big way, again, style is going to be, important. That personal brand will be important. And then there's probably other people that are like, screw it, I just want to be comfortable. Chanel, I've never done a big business with Chanel or any of the designer labels, just because my lady is usually just excited about her business, her profession, engineering, something totally different. So the avatar of a Chanel consumer is very different from the woman that comes to me. Usually the woman that comes to me is very smart and has tons of fish to fry and is not spending her, free time luxury shopping. It's just,
Yeah, I understand. And I'm going to actually jump ahead to Jayson with a different pivot here. What is your sense of recovery for brick and mortar versus online, and all the bankruptcies that have been happening in the industry with Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf's and, Amazon buying JCPenney, the brands, even J. Crew and True Religion going Chapter 11. What's your sense of that?
I think a lot of these companies that are filing for bankruptcy are simply doing it as a legal maneuver, obviously to kind of lower their store footprint. I'm a big believer that not every brand over the last 10 years required hundreds and hundreds of thousands of stores. So I think there's a right sizing that's occurring. And it's not necessarily the apocalyptic retail reasons why people think it's diminishing. But I do think that for the most part, a lot of the iconic brands will still remain pretty solid. I think, if you look at companies like J. Crew, a lot of them are very well diversified, right? So if you look at J. Crew, they've got Madewell, they've got a number of other businesses that will help shore up the core business. So I think again, going back to my initial thought or my initial comments, the question is, it's not whether they'll survive. I think it's really how will they survive, and what will their growth look like. So, if you were, comp flat 2 years ago, and then you were down 5% last year, right? This year, if you're going to be down 10 or 15, what are you going to do to become more of a balanced business in this kind of omni retail environment? So, I think retail will be fine. I think it's like, I think Sara or someone said this earlier, it's creative kind of Darwinism. I think those management teams that are extraordinarily entrepreneurial and then they could see this unfolding in a very quick period of time and culturally make these changes will probably end up becoming winners, right, in the industry. And try to balance out their revenue channels, right, at these companies. So whether you're doing at Victoria's Secret, right? 10 years ago, they were doing, when I first met them, I think, this is when Sharon Tarney was the CEO, they were doing $5 billion a year, right? And it was, if you break out the revenue channel back then, it was probably 4 billion in store, 1 billion, online. It's, a couple of years after that, it was probably, 3 in stores and 2 online. So there hasn't been that much incremental growth, but you're seeing all these kind of channel shifts. So I think the companies that know how to balance that well and can really build organizations to look at the brand, from a singular perspective and really create that type of culture where it's brand first or customer centric, and really do that. Because I've worked with a lot of retailers that say that, but they don't actually, it's not embedded in their DNA, either from a cultural or from a financial compensation standpoint, which I think is the big problem. I think everybody at organizations want to help each other, but when you have someone in wholesale, making 6 figures on 2 purchases, and you've got a kid in an e-commerce group that's working for less than what they would make at McDonald's, handling content all day long on single unit sales, that system is not yet balanced out. And I think this is going to be the death of Amazon too. So like 5 years ago, I know Amazon is killing it now, but I think Jeffrey Bezos, you guys can go and look at this online, but he made a statement that was really interesting in an internal memo where he said the unit economics of retail we can't defy the laws of gravity, right? Amazon is by and large a traditional retail model. They just so happen to sell it online. Their gross margins are terrible, and they're probably going to go bankrupt. This is a quote. This is something he actually said. So, it's interesting is, can the retailers balance out their organization so they can really get stable revenue, right? In a way where it really helps everybody in the organization and the customer base grows, in a stable manner. And then the question after that is then what new things will they do to really make an impact in this kind of new retail environment? So, but that can go either way. I feel that Amazon is also a traditional retailer, right? You pull out their, tech businesses, right? So I think they're under the same unit, retail model, right? They've never been profitable standalone in the last 25 years, so if something happens to Prime or something happens to AWS, which drives about 82% of their profitability, right? I think they're done, right? I mean, the domino effect on Amazon is going to be worse than a J. Crew. It's when they hit what, they're doing great now, but when it's their turn, right? Everybody has their turn. Sears, Macy's. When their number is up, that's going to be a pretty difficult situation for the country.
Seriously impact the industry. And Suzanne, what is your sense in thoughts about recovery for brick and mortar versus online? Because you as a manufacturer, you sell to a lot of brick and mortar, and now you probably have had to pivot to more online sales yourself.
Well, the most successful brick and mortar stores have a very strong e-commerce presence. The most successful retailers that are high level functioning in both really still only do about maybe 20 or 25% of their business in e-com. What I keep on reading about more and more in the industry news that I read is that even the true e-com only direct to consumer brands are looking for a brick and mortar presence. It's so important to connect with the customer and to give the customer oftentimes when we're talking about fabric and specifically in swimwear, fit. I mean, fit is just, it's gruesome to put on a swimsuit that doesn't fit. And I think that really the only way we can address that is to have both. I think we will definitely see a diminished footprint in terms of the retail square footage in the brick and mortar stores. However, it's the more info we can give the consumer, the better off she is. The trying on is the biggest challenge, which we'll always have, and specifically in swim, it's not like a big tent dress that kind of would fit anyone. It is something that's got to fit perfectly. So I think what we'll find is there will be a shrinking of retail, of brick and mortar stores, but I do believe also that they will still continue to remain important because of that connectivity you want to keep with your customer. You do want to have that experience. You want to give her the experience that she's looking for. Shopping is not only about going out and obtaining something, it's also the experience. There is entertainment involved. There's an entertainment component in that. And it's important to maintain that and to continue to offer that. It might look different. It might be not a sea of thousands of racks anymore, but it will definitely be an interaction that you want to have, a personal interaction with your consumer.
That's right. And with that, Alexandra, being the stylist, you pretty much covered this before, but do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. For me, the biggest gut-wrenching brick and mortar to lose was Lord & Taylor, the flagship, because the client that I'm working with is usually the woman that's looking to build the wardrobe, foundation and up with a very short amount of time. So that means creating anywhere between 6 and 40 outfits. So that's not just buying one piece at a time. So we have to use an efficient store. That would be a department store like a Lord & Taylor. Now, with that on the decline, me being in Nordstrom last week, seeing it so barely frightening. The problem is the consumer that's going to be most hit and hurt by this is the woman who has a challenging size. So that would be like your petite plus, your petites, your plus, all these people that they're now saying, okay, we're going to be size inclusive, or anyone who finds the fit part challenging. That's the woman that is going to suffer the most, because buying that online, that means she's buying anywhere between 2 and 3 different sizes to try on, and then hoping one of those will work. And then I'm around to translate, Italian designers fit like this, American designers fit like that, French fits like that. We don't have a size standardization right now. I wish we did. I mean, part of the reason I have a job is because there's sizing that, all over the place. I can literally purchase for the same client a small, an 8, a 10, a medium, all different sizes.
And just see which one's the right one.
Because I focus on the best fit.
We all know that. Everyone on this call has been there, because you don't always know what size it is. It's true.
That's going to be the hard part.
Yeah. And Sara, all the designers, if you go to, let's say, Las Vegas, every single mall has, they have a Louis Vuitton store, a Chanel. How is this brick and mortar? How is this going to affect all the designers in the industry?
Well, I think at the luxury level, there's a lot of uncertainty, in full honesty, but they will always survive. I think it's just a matter of how they evolve. And, I think it's exciting, those 2 global luxury that you mentioned. I think it's exciting, actually, that they're assessing what their offerings are and where to prioritize, even if that means, rather than expanding to, I don't think consolidate is the right word, but to really, optimize and be efficient. I think that's very purposeful and a step that others can follow. I think that in American fashion, Gabriela Hearst is just doing such extraordinary work, again, with sustainable luxury. But the brick and mortar, we were already seeing a shift towards pop-ups, hybrid offerings between the virtual and pop-up experience. Everyone likes what's easy. And so D2C or, direct buy on even Instagram, that's not going anywhere. But I think the physical and real life brand experience of stepping into, an actual space is going to be with us. It's just going to manifest and shift into different ways, but nothing can compete with really stepping into a reality, whether it's scent and apparel and having the whole environment, and also the service aspect of what you can find in brick and mortar at a luxury level is very important that we keep.
Very true. So in terms of social shopping, shoppable content, you know, it looks like that's really here to stay, where you can buy from Instagram, and Facebook now has shopping. So, you know, data and analytics have really been driving the sales and sizes in the industry. And how will that, how does that all marry together with social? Sarah, while you're there, do you want to take that? Because that's kind of a continuation of what you were just talking about.
Oh, well, I'm so fascinated by data and analytics, but it's not my area of expertise. But I would say the insights, I mean, we work with a lot of early emerging brands. We had a program called the Lingo Launchpad, and it really focused on business innovation and like native digital brands. So what you can get from those insights, I mean, is gold, and, you know, cannot be overlooked, and how to really, you know, not only about acquisition, but, you know, maintaining and sustaining, you know, who you've acquired. So probably not the best to share stats, but, you know, I think it's essential for sure.
Yeah. Well, Jayson, you're a numbers guy, right? In terms of data analytics and social shopping, how do you see that heading forward?
Well, I see kind of social like catalog, right, from the old days. It's, you know, I definitely think it drives a lot of demand. There's certainly more stickiness because it's more relatable as I guess a selling vehicle. But you know, I think it's not for everybody, right? So this is kind of an experience I had while I was at some of the brands. We did a lot of personalization to try to identify customer segments, you know, across social and just traffic on the website, and do a lot of, you know, acquisition retention marketing throughout the years. And what we've discovered is that it's hard to nail, it's really hard to use that medium to generate, or at least get stickiness on lifetime value, simply because the trends are so, especially in fashion where things move so quickly. So, I mean, we have seen it as a major impact, but I guess the short answer is I do see that as an impact. I think it's a big demand driver. I don't know how much gross margin contribution it provides businesses, but we certainly have a lot of companies that leverage it, and they do fairly well with it. You know, it's interesting. The ones that seem to have a lot of these kind of form function components and very specialty. I think someone just mentioned plus sizes. We actually have a plus size business in our portfolio. The more hyper focused you are, I think those types of mediums have a tendency of being more relevant. I think the more generalized you are, you're probably not going to see the kind of ROI from it that one might expect, right? I mean, I think I saw an article recently in somewhere where Google's ad revenues it was the first time it's taken a hit in its history. So I think people are coming to this realization that digital marketing is, you know, it's no longer, you know, the new game in town where you could, you know, you know, that you have some sort of competitive advantage if you can get in there and really leverage it properly. I think a lot of those channels are more expensive than even traditional channels that have been used as marketing vehicles. I mean, right now you could deploy a catalog to 2 million customers. It sits on your coffee table for probably 2 weeks, you know, versus a Google ad that might, you might pay the same amount to run a campaign for a couple of days on a couple of keywords. So sure, one is more trackable, but I would argue that at the end of the day, you know, if you took the subset of customers that was coming in from some of that kind of online marketing, and you did a match back to go find out what kind of customer they were, you'll probably discover that they were probably existing customers that just wasn't reactivated. So, so I think the jury is out on that, you know, so.
Okay. Perfect. And we're going to wrap this up in another minute, but I just wanted to get Suzanne a real quick take on social shopping for you, because you're all about data and analytics to see the sizes and what you need.
Yeah, we really are. Like I mentioned before, when we look at sales week to week, we're analyzing, and it shows you just incredible trends if you spend the time with the information. We're looking at color trend, we're looking at silhouette trend, we're looking at a stock to sales analysis, meaning that how much do they have and how much do they sell, and what we want is the sales to be higher than the stock, but not too much higher, because then they're not going to go through the stock. So we're always looking at the analytics there. When it comes to social, it's a little bit different, and I tend to agree with what was just mentioned, because we don't see the return on the investment yet. social selling, especially with something like I talked about before with the crucial demand for an exquisite fit. It's a little bit more challenging in my personal business. However, we still have our foot in there. We still are going to continue to pursue it because it's part of your whole portfolio of marketing, and it's important to kind of still maintain presence at each level and through each outlet. So I think that we'll continue to do that, but the return on the investment is not as strong as the hype. And I do agree that old-fashioned printed snail mail catalog is still a meaningful way to speak to the customer. There's a lot of room for editorial. You can really, speak to her with images, with information, and I don't see that going away either.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're with some of the big stores and you're in their e-commerce division, there's just so much, it's hard to really find stuff. And, people will never stop going to stores because it's a physical touch and they can really see the colors and all that. So thank you, everybody. And there's a bunch of questions that I want to get to really quick. And
Actually, Sandy, you know what? I'm going to interrupt for a second. Beth and I would like to thank our panelists because I know some people need to go. So we'd like to thank everyone for participating. We just so appreciate you, but please don't leave. We do have our gifts to announce. We'd like to then do a Q&A with everybody, with Sandy leading that. So thank you so much, Alexandra, for participating on the panel, Suzanne Walker, Sara Kozlowski, who had to drop off, Jayson Kim. Alexandra, you have a gift for us. Can you just tell us what that might be?
Oh yes, my third book, Love What You Wear. If anyone wants a copy of my latest book with all my style expertise, I'm happy to email that to anyone. They just have to email me at ag@alexandrastylist.com and I'll send you a free copy.
Alexandra, maybe you can put that in the chat, and when we send out the coupon for the swimwear, we can include that too. So Suzanne, tell us about the wonderful swimsuits that we've all been so eagerly waiting for.
Sorry about that. We just decided it would be just a great way to kind of thank everyone for having us here. That we sequestered a bunch of swimsuits from a couple of different brands. We included we had some size inclusive options as well, and we wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to pick something, to pick a swimsuit and email us your request. There's a gallery of images there, so there's usually front and back, and there's also a size chart to help you find the one that would be right for you. And we hope that you enjoy it, and it's a kickoff to a wonderful summer. I hope that you'll all enjoy wonderful time with friends and family.
Suzanne, thank you. Listen, Beth and I had a sneak preview on those swimsuits. Oh my gosh, we are all, on behalf of everybody, we are so grateful and thank you very much. And we're all going to take you out for a drink when we can meet in person.
We're thrilled. I'd love it. I'd love it.
Absolutely. So Sandy, we're going to give you back the Q&A. Beth, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just want to say thank you to the panelists and our members and the folks that attended today. It was a great session. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to give everything back to Sandy, and then we invite everybody after Q&A to please, we'd like to open this up so anybody who wants to talk to each other can. And we just appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
Great. So we have a question from Natasha. I'd like to know how much of the industry is yet becoming accustomed to 3D design, Clothes 3D, V-Stitcher, etc. Would anybody like to take that question that knows about 3D design?
I will jump in if no one minds. We actually are doing it now in not a small way, but a controlled way. We have some retail partners that are requiring it of us. We still, again, the 3D design that we do, it's going to minimize the expense of making a garment before previewing it with a customer. And it allows you to see the garment in 3D, obviously 3D, but also from all angles, and it's a manipulatable electronic version of what the garment will look like. And it's very easy while you're working working with a customer to just drop in different prints, and they say, okay, I like that, but let's make that red, or I don't like it. How about I like the leg line longer, or I want a skirt on that style. You can actually just do it in person. And I think what we find is that the production process will be condensed in terms of timeline. We're also feeling that the development process will be much more efficient and much more economical as well. So we're there. There are some partners that are requiring that from us, but it's not universal yet. But I imagine probably within about, I would say maybe 2 years, it will be universal.
Great, perfect. And Sara, you have a question from Michelle. Looking at the creativity fans showed in bringing the 2020 Met Gala to life online, will the CDFA look to bring these new voices into the world of member designers?
Sara had to drop off, just so you know, Sandy.
Oh, I'm sorry to everybody. I'm so busy looking at the questions. So I don't think anyone else will be able to answer that question.
No, but I don't know if anyone saw any of the wonderful images online of everyone who just created all of their own looks. And it was breathtaking and really inspiring. People who just decided to make their own Met Gala. And it was, if you can take a look, find some images online of people who just, the creativity in this world is just so inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexandra, do you think this will open the door for more brands that cater to various sizes like 11 Honorary?
I hope so. I hope so. I remember taking a peek at 11 Honorary, and I thought, wow, this is like a great next step. My challenge and my concern with a lot of the styles is that a lot of these styles are not flattering for women of shapes. I mean, there's 48 different body types, which I'm trained in to analyze. There's probably more than 48, but generally it's 48. And it's not just your pear shape, your hourglass, your apple. It's more complicated than that. And no one looks good in a sack. You know, no one looks good in a big, like, voluminous thing. So, I mean, my challenge with those sites is I felt like the designers weren't really designing for the plus woman. They were kind of like, okay, let's take styles that we designed for smaller women and just make them bigger, which that is not the solution at all.
No, it's not.
They need tailored, specific things that work for them. Flattering, you know, flattering fabrics, ruching in the right place.
Yeah.
You know, non-clingy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's it with the questions. And I just want one last departing question from everyone. And thank you again is, you know, what will fashion look like when people go to work, and with in terms of protests? Are there going to be, you know, more protest t-shirts coming out? You know, any trends that you see? And we covered a little bit about, you know, on this, but Alexandra, do you want to leave with that?
Oh my God. You know, I don't know.
It's so up in the air right now.
I wish I had a crystal ball for this. I feel like no one has really asked me for, you know, a protest shirt.
Yeah, whether things will be a big statement or not, I think we're gonna see going forward. Suzanne, do you see anything there?
I would say that, you know, I think that specifically in my industry, I don't see a major change, but what I already have seen in many companies like mine is a raising of awareness, a willingness to talk and have conversations, and to kind of look at the way we're running our business to be more inclusive overall. And I think that whether or not that will probably not manifest in the way a garment looks, at least where I am. However, it will manifest in the way the company is run, the way the people that we will continue to add to the team. And I think that is going to be more meaningful than what a garment looks like.
Yeah. And Jayson, have you heard anything about trends going forward?
Yeah, but it's mostly, like I said in the beginning of the call, it's mostly around kind of this combination of form factor, bringing more functional components, at least from a clothing perspective, is kind of what I've seen. You know, in terms of style, just kind of prints, patterns, fabrication, things of that sort. I think you guys would know that better than I would. But yeah, I mean, it seems like people are trying to figure out how to build more function and kind of retransforming something so it has more than two particular value propositions to the end consumer. So I've seen everything from dresses being one-piece dresses that are now that could be folded and shrink wrapped into a Ziploc bag or a zip bag, to stuffed animals that are turning into hoodies and jackets. You know, we've seen interesting things at the even at the shoes level. I've seen, yeah, I mean, this was a trend even before now, but you know, there's more, it's becoming more mainstream where you're seeing like heels transform into flat.
Well, sneakers have been big for a long time.
Yeah, and then the most interesting thing that I've seen recently is really in jewelry and accessories. So we have a company in our portfolio that allows women to kind of custom design their own pieces. They send you exact replicas of them so that you could try it on and you could get the sizing right. And if you really love it, you could keep it. And the assumption is that you'll go and buy the real thing online. And it solves apparently a big problem for women who don't like buying very expensive jewelry pieces and having to wear them every day and get them scuffed up or damaged or potentially lost. And so the customer ends up, or the client ends up with two exact copies. One is real, one is fake. And that seems to do really well. In fact, that company we just led an investment round with the De Beers family office.
Wow.
So obviously that institution thinks that's probably something transformative, right, in that particular category. So we're seeing a lot of those kind of companies. They're just putting new twists and more function onto fashion to try to figure out ways to provide more value to the end consumer.
I think that's great, and I would love to see that line. So that is it for our panel questions. Thank you, everybody, and Diane and Beth. I'll have you say one final word about C-Suite, and I look forward to seeing everybody on either the next Zoom meeting or live in person when we really have the New York launch event.
Yeah,
So thank
Sandy,
you.
you did a fantastic job today, so thank you so much. And then the other thing we forgot to mention is Swim USA is going to put a mask in with the swimsuit as well. Fabulous, so yay for that. And we'll get all that out.
Sorry to interrupt. We forgot to mention before, the inside of the mask is made with antimicrobial fabric. So it's something that is obviously washable and reusable, but it's also a little bit more protective.
That's fabulous. Thank you. So Diane, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, we are done. Thank you, everybody. We love each of you, and we are here to support you in any way that we can, whether it's a connect, whatever you need, we are here for you. And as we launch the new website and move into the rest of the year, you're going to see all sorts of really fantastic programming that we have planned. So we welcome you to keep joining us. Bring your friends. We're always looking for sponsors, and I think that's about it. Let's just open it up to everybody.